Hi, my name is Linda Hippert, and I am the Executive Director of the Allegheny Intermediate Unit.
And I'm Michael Brinkus, the Assistant Executive Director of Operations and Educational Services at the Allegheny Intermediate Unit.
As educators and school employees, we certainly understand the importance of creating a safe and welcoming environment for our students. For many years, safety has been a top priority for us, and schools have actively partnered with parents, families, and community groups, as well as law enforcement, to promote a very safe and caring environment, both in our schools as well as in our communities.
Over the last several years, the unfortunate realities of child abuse have come into sharper focus across the nation and here at home. As a result, Act 126 of the Pennsylvania Child Protective Services Law was passed and signed into law by Governor Corbett. The law directly affects all school employees.
We know that our children are our future, and we must work diligently to not only teach and guide them, but to do our very best to protect them.
The training that follows will help you understand your responsibilities. You will gain a greater understanding of the Child Protective Services Law and what it means to be a mandated reporter.
At the Allegheny Intermediate Unit, we are very pleased to have the opportunity to present you with this very important information. As always, and as our mission states, we are here to provide leading-edge, high-quality programs and services to our schools, our educators, our families, and of course, our students.
Thank you for choosing the Allegheny Intermediate Unit.
The overall goal of this course is to ensure that all state-mandated training requirements about Act 126 are met. At the end of this course, you will understand the definition and legal obligations of a mandated reporter as per Act 126. In addition, you will understand the Professional Educator Discipline Act, the PSPC, and what it means to maintain appropriate boundaries and communications with students.
Hello, I'm Dr. Diana Malone, Training and Consultation Coordinator at the Allegheny Intermediate Unit. I'm a licensed school psychologist and certified trainer for the Pennsylvania Child Protective Services Law for mandated reporters of child abuse and neglect. So let's begin. Let's take a look at the Child Protective Services Law, also referred to as CPSL. The purpose of the Child Protective Services Law is to promote more complete reporting of suspected child abuse and understand that if there is reasonable cause to suspect abuse, mandated reporters must report. To involve law enforcement in responding to child abuse, and to protect the child and establish services for investigation, protection, and rehabilitation for families to make efforts to preserve the family. Rehabilitation services for families involved include protecting the child by ensuring the child's well-being, and preserving, stabilizing, and protecting the family life wherever appropriate, or providing an alternative permanent family when it is in the best interest of the child. The Pennsylvania legislature established the Pennsylvania Child Protective Services Law in 1975. In 1985, Act 33 requires background checks for school employees, child care workers, and others working with children. In May 2007, Act 179 passed. This act outlines penalties for mandated reporters for failure to report. The CPSL Act 126 ensures that those who are in direct contact with children, mandated reporters, receive 3 hours of training every 5 years, and that reports are investigated with competence through timelines and training requirements. The Act requires that children and youth workers must complete a minimum of 120 hours of core training and additional training on an annual basis. Now let's take a look at the Child Protective Services system. In the Pennsylvania statute, the Department of Public Welfare has the responsibility for developing regulations to implement state law, distributes funding, hires the Director of Children and Youth Agencies, operates the child abuse hotline called Childline, and maintains the child abuse registry. The county children and youth agencies provide protective services for children and are managed at the local level. In the Child Protective Service system, there are two primary functions of children and youth agencies, including Child Protective Services, or CPS, for situations where there has been reasonable cause to suspect abuse. They conduct child abuse investigations. General Protective Services, GPS, where there is a concern about issues in the home and non-abuse cases requiring supports and services. Let's look at each in more detail. The Department of Public Welfare operates Childline, 1-800-932-0313. It's a statewide, toll-free, 24-hour, 7-day-a-week system. It receives reports of suspected child abuse and it refers reports to local county agencies for investigation. General Protective Services protects the safety, rights, and welfare of children, assists parents in recognizing and correcting conditions that are harmful to their children, assists parents in fulfilling their parental duties more adequately in a manner that does not put their children at risk. Parents and caretakers are responsible for providing children with the essentials of life, which include food, shelter, clothing, supervision, medical care, education, and protection from harm. Failure to do so may result in a referral to General Protective Services for supports and services. GPS provides services to prevent the potential harm to a child who meets one of several criteria. These criteria include when a child is without proper parental care or control, subsistence, education as required by law, or other care or control necessary for their physical, mental, or emotional health or morals, or has been placed for care or adoption in violation of the law, or has been abandoned by their parents, guardian, or other custodian, or is without a parent, guardian, or other custodian, or while subject to compulsory school attendance is habitually and without justification truant from school, or when a child has committed a specific act or acts of habitual disobedience of the reasonable and lawful commands of his parent, guardian, or other custodian, and who is ungovernable and found to be in need of care, treatment, or supervision, or has been formally adjudicated dependent and is under the jurisdiction of the court, subject to its conditions or placements, and who commits an act which is defined as ungovernable, is under the age of 10 years and has committed a delinquent act, or has been referred under informal adjustment, and who commits an act which is defined as ungovernable, or is born to a parent whose parental rights with regard to another child have been involuntarily terminated within 3 years immediately preceding the date of the birth of the child, and the conduct of the parent poses a risk to the health, safety, and welfare of the child. In response to a report or referral, both the risk and safety assessments are completed by the county agencies, not the reporter. When Child Protective Services, or CPS, receives a report via Childline, the PA risk assessment form is completed by the County Children and Youth Agency. In addition, the county agency completes a safety assessment and CPS conducts the Childline investigation. When GPS receives a referral from Childline, General Protective Services must complete the risk assessment and safety assessment. When a referral is made directly to GPS, not through Childline, they can determine to accept or not accept the case. When making referrals to GPS, describe the facts regarding the situation. Describe the risk of harm or maltreatment to the child, what efforts the school district has made to remediate the situation, particularly in the case of truancy, Document your referral, the contact person, and GPS responses. Note, if not accepted, request reasons, consult your supervisor, and resubmit in writing if you and your supervisor believe GPS services are essential. If you are unsure whether to make a report to Childline or a referral to GPS, call Childline for assistance, and they will determine how best to direct you. Next, we are going to review some scenarios. We will review the answer, rationale, and the actions you would take. Sally is age 4 and her mother, Betty, is age 24. A neighbor reports that Betty left Sally home alone while she went to a bar to drink with her friends and stayed the night at her boyfriend's home. The neighbor states that she believes Betty has a drinking problem. CPS report or GPS referral? Why? What actions will you take? Is this a CPS report or a GPS referral, and why? This would be a GPS referral. This situation would be a General Protective Service referral because no actual harm has come to the child. Issues of abandonment, which could be considered in this case, would also fall under GPS. What actions would you take? The police should be called as a child was left home alone and there is concern for their safety. A referral to County Children and Youth Services Agency would be made, and the neighbor giving you this information should also be encouraged to make a referral. Document your referral and County Children and Youth staff response and contact information. Please note, although the police should be called when a child is left home alone and there is concern for their safety, the state of Pennsylvania has no specific law regarding when it is permissible to leave a child home alone. However, there are several factors that need to be considered as to whether a child can stay alone safely, including, but not limited to, age, maturity level, cognitive skills, capability of calling 911, how many children they will be responsible for, trustworthiness, and so on. Joni is an enjoyable, happy child in daycare and loves playing with other children and staff. She lives with her single mother who has a new boyfriend. Recently, she has become withdrawn, angry, cries, and is distressed when staff help her to the bathroom. The staff notice bruises and welts on her buttocks and back. Is this a CPS report or GPS referral? Why? What actions will you take? It is a CPS report. There are indicators that serious abuse may have occurred with major changes in behavior, mood, and physical indicators. There is enough information to have reasonable cause to suspect child abuse. The action? Call Childline immediately to make a report of suspected child abuse. It is recommended that after calling Childline, follow up with a courtesy call to County Children and Youth Services. Within 48 hours of calling Childline, complete the CY47 report form and submit it to the County Children and Youth Services. Note, the reporting process module will review these actions in more detail. Single mother Barb has 4 children ages 15, 12, 9, and 5. According to family members, the older children are often running the streets late on school nights and sometimes appear intoxicated. Their home is described as having no heat source, plumbing in need of repair, and a leaky roof. The children often arrive to school late, hungry, and dirty. The older children have frequent absences. Is this a CPS report or GPS referral? Why? What actions will you take? This is a GPS referral. The situation would be a GPS referral because no actual harm has come to the children. However, there are concerns of potential harm and issues of truancy. It appears the essentials of life are not being met. According to the reported information, none of the children appear to have experienced any abuse. What actions will you take? A referral to County Children and Youth Services Agency would be made. the family member giving you this information should also be encouraged to make a referral. Document your referral and county children and youth staff response and their contact information. Note, lack of heat or plumbing is not considered neglect. In order for serious physical neglect, the child must suffer from a physical condition that either endangers the child's life or development or impairs the child's functioning. We will learn more about the categories of child abuse in another module. Possible warning signs of abuse. For the child, changes in behavior or school performance, has not received help for physical or medical problems brought to the parent's attention, learning problems that cannot be attributed to specific physical or psychological causes, always watchful, lacks adult supervision, is overly compliant, passive, or withdrawn, comes to school early, stays late, and does not want to go home. Many factors can contribute to these listed symptoms that are not the result of abuse and should not be considered in isolation. They can be helpful looking at the entire situation. When considering physical, behavioral indicators, don't assume that because a symptom is there, that they are a victim, or if a symptom is not there, that they aren't a victim. These indicators can be helpful in looking at the overall situation. The standard for mandated reporters is simply if there is reasonable cause to suspect child abuse, report it. The parent shows little concern for the child, denies existence of the child's problems in school or at home, asks teachers or other caregivers to use harsh physical discipline if child misbehaves, sees the child as bad, worthless, or burdensome, demands a level of physical or academic performance that the child cannot achieve, looks primarily to the child for care, attention, and satisfaction of emotional needs. The indicators for both the parent and child. They rarely touch or look at each other, they consider their relationship entirely negative, and they state that they do not like each other. A child's response to abuse can vary depending on the age of the child, the type, frequency, and length of abuse, availability of support for the child, and the relationship with the abuser. It is difficult to determine how a child will respond in these set of circumstances or how they will impact on the child's life. The more serious and the more prolonged the maltreatment, the more likely the child will suffer permanent and serious consequences. Although child abuse may be the primary event, there are secondary consequences as a result of abuse. Often, this is not a one-time event. It can last throughout a lifetime. Individuals that have experienced the trauma of abuse may develop physical and emotional scars that can result in substance abuse, eating and sleep disturbances, sexual dysfunction, promiscuity, fears, disabilities, and cognitive impairment and death. Psychological disturbances can present as anxiety and depression, self-destructive behaviors, and impact their education, often related to misbehavior, learning problems, and poor adult and peer interactions. As a child and as an adult, it can be difficult to establish trusting, healthy relationships. The cost of child abuse to society includes financial loss, unemployment, crime, loss of tax revenues, and the cost of services and imprisonment. Re-victimization can occur. According to the CPSL, there are some exclusions to child abuse, including injuries resulting from an accident and environmental factors beyond the control of a parent or caretaker, such as inadequate housing, furnishings, income, clothing, and medical care. The child can be referred to GPS for support and services. In addition, the third exclusion discusses serious religious beliefs that are consistent with bona fide tenets or principles of a bona fide religion and is only in regard to medical practice. In other words, to be a bona fide religion, there must be written documentation with an approved IRS nonprofit tax-exempt status. And, for example, due to these religious beliefs, a parent may deny medical or surgical treatment for their child, and this would not be considered to meet the definition of child abuse. However, the county agency closely monitors the child in these situations and seeks court-ordered medical intervention if the child's life or long-term health is threatened. The family may be referred to GPS for support and services as needed. The law defines child abuse as any recent act or failure to act by a perpetrator which causes non-accidental serious physical injury to a child, causes serious mental injury to or sexual exploitation of a child, or creates an imminent risk of serious physical injury or sexual abuse or sexual exploitation of a child. Serious physical neglect by a perpetrator constituting prolonged or repeated lack of supervision or the failure to provide the essentials of life, including adequate medical care, which endangers a child's life or development or impairs the child's functioning. These are the three components of child abuse as defined by the Child Protective Services law. All three must exist for child abuse to be substantiated. 1, the child. The child is under the age of 18 when the alleged abuse occurred. 2 is the perpetrator, an abuser that fits into one of 4 categories. 3, the act or failure to act. The law considers both acts and omissions that cause harm or the serious risk of harm to a child. Let's look at each in more detail. The child is defined by the Child Protective Services law as an individual under the age of 18 when the alleged abuse occurred. The CPSL defines a perpetrator as one of the following 4 individuals. Parent of a child. This may be a biological parent, adoptive parent, step-parent, or legal guardian. They do not have to be living with the child. Persons responsible for the child's welfare. Individuals that provide permanent or temporary care, supervision, mental health services, training, or control of a child in lieu of parental care, supervision, and control. Babysitters, daycare providers, residential care staff, and foster parents are in this category. However, school employees, including teachers, bus drivers, principals, and so on, are not in this category as they fall under the student abuse category, which we will discuss in another module. 3rd, individuals residing in the same home as the child. Other individuals who reside in the same home as the abused child who are at least 14 years of age are in this category, including unrelated boarders. No other category has an age qualifier. Paramour of a child's parents. Any individual engaged in an ongoing intimate relationship with the child's parent but is not married to the parent. It is not necessary for the paramour to live within the same household as the parent or child. Research shows that child abuse is most often committed by a family member or someone known to the child, with 60% being a mother or father, paramour, or babysitter. Note, if you have reasonable cause to suspect that child abuse has occurred due to an act or failure to act by an individual that does not fit into the perpetrator category, you should contact Childline and they can determine the course of action. Some cases may involve criminal or legal action. These are the 5 categories of child abuse under the act or failure to act component. Serious physical injury, serious mental injury, sexual abuse or exploitation, serious physical neglect, and imminent risk. It is important to remember that although the abuse must meet the legal definition with all 3 components, including the child, perpetrator, and act or failure to act for abuse to be substantiated, mandated reporters do not determine this. Mandated reporters only need to meet the standard of having reasonable cause to suspect abuse. Do not base your decision on your own life experience or what I would do, but on the standards of the law. Is there reasonable cause to suspect abuse? If so, call it in. Remember, you are not the investigator. A breakdown of the percentages of substantiated reports is as follows. Serious physical injury, 25% of substantiated reports. Serious mental injury, least of substantiated reports. Sexual abuse or exploitation, 66%, most of substantiated reports. Serious physical neglect, 4% of substantiated reports. And imminent risk, 5% of substantiated reports. In the state of Pennsylvania, like some other states, there can be some confusion between child abuse and corporal punishment, which is permissible in the state of Pennsylvania. This can present confusion, but if you have reasonable cause to suspect, you need to call it in and let CPS sort it out. The next section will review each of the 5 categories of child abuse, and then we will participate in some activities.